Welcome to PodcastTBD. This week, your hosts are Distinct Kusai and Jukebox Hero.
Vlad?
Okay.
Yeah, Vladdy.
I don't think he heard my threat.
What was your threat?
I told him I was going to shove this tea-nut into his butthole. You know what a tea-nut is?
What is a tea-nut?
Okay, it's like
How have you...
the female end of a screw, so you can screw into it, and it's a bunch of spikes, so you nail it into a solid piece of wood. They're often used for, like, sofa legs and stuff. So it's just a really spiky screw nut thing.
It sounds fun.
A little bit. Unless you bend it, then it's useless and it sucks.
Use it as a weapon. Put it on the end of a string.
You can kill anybody with anything.
Just put it in a slingshot.
There you go, right in the temple.
I've seen one of these. Yeah, I've seen these before.
You looked it up?
Yeah, I had to.
Yeah, so I'm recording in the spare bedroom, and I got the desk open and the microphone in the drawer so it's close enough to me. And there's just all sorts of little treasures in here, including a tea-nut, which I probably bought
when random tea-nut?
I probably bought it when I was making my arcade machine, because I had to replace all of the feet.
Oh, yeah. How is that arcade machine working? How are your 3 little arcade machines doing?
I mean, they're fine, but I haven't played them in a while.
Which one was giving you issues? Was it Galaga or Miss Pac-Man?
I mean, they all had some sort of issue I had to fix.
No, but there was one that was shut down for a while, wasn't it?
Well, Galaga was shut down for quite a while because the neck board was cracked. And
that's the one I'm thinking of.
I had a ROM that was corrupt, but I fixed those. Miss Pac-Man, I had to do a complete monitor rebuild. So that one took the longest, mostly because of waiting for parts and stuff.
Yeah. Just so anybody's listening here, if you ever want an arcade machine rebuilt, Jukebox is your man to go to.
Oh, God. I won't make them, but I
or
can
at least
help
ask.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
if you
pretty
got
knowledgeable
questions.
about it. We should actually do a podcast on arcade machines one of these days.
Yeah, we really should. I mean, that's like my jam.
Oh, before we get started our topic here, guess what I ran into? I was in Edmonton today, and I ran into the Edmonton's mayor, Don Ivinson, at a grocery store.
Nifty.
Did you happen to talk to him?
I shook hands with him, and he thought he recognized me, and I had to tell him no. And I didn't want to tell him why he recognized me. So, I'm not going to tell anybody who I am, but I'll point this out. If you ever saw me in real life, you would probably think I looked like a certain character from a TV show. And it comes up quite often when I'm walking around. So that's pretty much why I'm thinking he thought he recognized me.
Game of Thrones, Sam.
Yeah, essentially. It's got to the point where I've had more than one person not just think I looked like the actor, but assumed I was the actor.
Yeah.
And then I have to go, no.
No way.
There's
like,
a
actually,
tad
it was
of resemblance.
Yeah.
There's just a slight. I mean, if maybe you only watched one episode or something.
It's a little well, the first time that my friends saw the actors on Merlin, they called me up and be like, "Did we just see you on a TV show?" And I'm like, "No, I'm sitting here watching the same episode you're looking at."
Doesn't mean you can't be the actor, because
oh God, no,
it's not like it's
so-
live or anything.
I would question what that actor would be doing here in Edmonton. I don't know why people think I am him sometimes, because like, what is he doing walking around Edmonton?
Well, hold on, because I just heard on the radio, it's not an actor, but apparently Cisco, the guy who made the thong song, may actually live in Edmonton.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's fucking weird.
Nathan Fillion's from here.
Well, yeah, people are from here, but like he lives here.
Oh, supposedly one of the guys from Kiss comes here quite often to shop at West Edmonton Mall.
That wouldn't
I can
surprise me.
imagine that.
I mean, Bieber
And
did. And he's way more famous than Kiss is right now, so.
Well, actually, no, weirdly enough, if you sit around West Edmonton Mall, and when I was growing up, used to be a bit of a mall rat, especially there, no, you will see all sorts of weird people, including famous people there, if you just sit there and watch. They don't appreciate if you come up and say hello all the time, though.
Well, of course.
They're there to relax. They don't want to be recognized.
I found it really weird because I actually was there the day that Justin Bieber was. And because I heard it on the radio later and I was there at like the exact same time. I did not see any swarms of teenage girls or anything. I half expected there to be like a mob. I think
most of the time people just assume that they're not the person they think they are, and they're or too afraid to go up and ask if they are.
Yeah. So. I think I remember once the Jonas Brothers were there or something.
Yeah.
Apparently that mall just attracts really shitty musicians.
Yeah, pretty much. Not famous though. The coolest kind of thing I've ever saw while I was there is there was like actual Buddhist monks there one day, like a group of them. We stopped and asked them, like, are you guys just dressed like that, or are you actually? And the translator was translating for them, and they were like, yeah, no, we are. We're from China. That's what we do.
Were some of them
we're monks, and they were in full regalia, like garb or whatever you want to call their garbs. I can't remember what they're called.
Were any of them
dressed traditionally?
Were any of them
with the beads and everything
under the oath of silence?
No, they just didn't speak English.
I see. No, I was just wondering if any.
That's why they. No, they were all talking. It's just, they didn't understand us, so they had to use their translator to talk to us for a second.
Well, speaking of technology, that sort of thing, have you seen those voice translators? You talk into them in one language, and it speaks another language. Like you can speak English and Japanese can come out, but of course it's not perfect, right? It's not refined with slang.
I think
stuff.
Those things are so cool. I really like that there's like iOS apps for stuff like that. Like you don't have to buy a $1,200 program.
Oh no!
Well, have you guys seen what's it called, World Lens?
No clue what that is.
It's an app on I think it's on iOS and Android, but it will automatically translate any text it sees that you're videotaping or taking pictures of live. So like if you wanted to translate English, like you could get this app right now, go up to your bookshelf and translate all the text on your books to another language. It could be like German, and it'll instantly translate it to German and make it look like it's the same font that's on the book.
That's unreal.
So like you go up to a sign, it'll translate. It'll make the sign look like it's speaking English. You could be in Germany, and it'll translate the sign automatically over to English and match the font and color.
I love how powerful technology is now.
That is amazing. And you know what's funny? They said, once we hit, these last few years, that technology would, sort of slow off and not improve as fast as it used to. Well, it's just going to get exponentially faster and faster, in my opinion, and it has been.
Well, I think it will too.
Well, there's a strange thing because Moore's law would say, if you go all the way back to like the 50s and look at technology and computers and how it's advanced since, every 18 months or whatever, processing power doubles or speed doubles. After, about 2007, there was a giant shift in what people wanted out of computing. So people were a lot more focused on the ARM architecture for like tablets and mobile devices and stuff. So it isn't necessarily that we're not as advancing as fast. It's just we're advancing in a different direction.
Yeah, which is still a good thing. And on top of that, yeah, you're right. That's probably where most people get misconceptions. They think they're measuring it in a certain way, the progress of technology, but not realizing it is progressing just in a different way that they're not following.
Yeah, like self-driving cars and everything NVIDIA's doing there.
And then most people who follow computers and don't follow self-driving cars won't realize that there is a whole bunch of stuff like that getting advanced right now.
Yeah.
So
I just can't. I can't imagine the day when quantum computing is a regular thing.
Like a standard thing. That would be nice. You brought up the translate. There's one other thing that I know is coming out is I think it was Skype's talking about coming out with an audio to text translator for their video chats. So not as like, you know, significant as like audio to audio translation, but the fact that you can speak in English, talk to somebody who's speaking like say Chinese, and they'll be able to read what you're saying at the bottom of their screen as you're saying it.
That's actually super significant. That's like subtitles on the fly. So even if you had it in the same language for people who are like hearing impaired and stuff, because that would be way more efficient than having someone have to type it out. And even if it was for something like a movie, you could just have someone go back and kind of change the words that were mistranslated and whatnot.
Imagine just that in class.
Speed everything up.
In class, your prof is up there, he's speaking, and as he's speaking, whatever he's saying is going on text onto your tablet or computer, what have you.
That'd be so awesome for people that need note taking through their student disabilities.
Oh yeah, and I've seen typists in my class before too.
Because like some people actually need that, right?
So
and that would help. On top of that, yeah, like it's saying, it would help people that are deaf or impaired in other ways. So, what was I gonna say? Oh, and like there are text audio to text programs now too that are really good, like auto subtitles. It wasn't who was it? It was Philip DeFranco actually talked about it recently and did a test of it, and it was actually accurately showing what he was saying live. So they're like some of the audio to text technology is getting really significant, and which is nice for me. But I'm hoping that also brings more advancements into the text audio stuff, which is something I use frequently myself. You guys want to start talking about the Russian Terminator?
Sure.
Yeah, we probably should, eh?
Yeah. So they're kind of catching a little bit of flack because you can't be like, hey, here's this robot that's learning on its own, and we're teaching it, and we're teaching it how to shoot guns. But before anybody ever criticizes them, they're like, but we're not trying to make a Terminator. When you go, that's like being like, walking up to somebody, bumping into me, like, sorry, I'm not trying to steal from you. They haven't accused you of stealing from them yet, but now that you've said it, they're assuming you tried pickpocketing them. It's the same thing. You don't deny you've done something before people have even accused you of doing it.
Okay, before you get into this, you need to tell all the listeners what the Russian Terminator is.
Yes. So the Russian Terminator is this robot called Fedor, and it's essentially an artificial intelligent humanoid robot that learns. And the Russian government and the scientists working with it have decided to recently teach it how to shoot guns. Not just one gun, but two guns simultaneously, one in each hand.
He be dual wielding.
And yeah, this thing was dual wielding, and he was dual wielding with better accuracy than a lot of people can do on his like first attempt.
So the more and more this thing shoots, the faster it shoots, and with better accuracy.
So yeah, it's kind of, you know, a little bit scary when you watch the video and you're like, oh, this thing is actually doing it. Oh, and here's a direct quote from them. We are not creating a Terminator, but artificial intelligence that will be a great practical significance in various fields. So like, yeah, we're trying to get it to be somewhere else. You know, like medical places and schools and stuff. But we thought it was a significant step to teach it how to shoot guns first.
Yeah, rather than having it balance plates to show its accuracy and like, man, I can't even fucking think of the world. But like, let's not do that and let's give it guns.
Oh, come on, they're the Russians. Can't blame them for that.
Mazda Russia.
Maybe they're just, poking fun.
Well, they're all bears on unicycles. I don't know how they can make robots with those giant paws.
The guy who reports this stuff for the Russians, like this Russian guy that does, his name's Mr. and I hope I'm pronouncing it Rogizin, and he is not really good with PR. They really shouldn't be letting him speak. Because I'm looking and like some of the articles are actively pointing out that multiple times this guy has made weird comments over the years about multiple bits of his projects that probably weren't good comments. So smart dude, just not good at public speaking.
I can totally understand that though.
They're expecting this robot to be able to travel in space by 2021.
Oh, nifty. Oh, yeah. Russia's getting back into space travel.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. We need this.
All those anthropologists in the last 20th century here that were gone shit during the McCarthy era for saying Russia was a more advanced country than the U.S. because of their space travel are about to be proven right again, probably.
Yeah, we need this. We need this so NASA gets its head out of its ass and starts investing in space travel and exploration.
NASA's about to start losing its stuff because, for one, Canada's is now producing its own spaceport. They used to rely on NASA for all their space exploration stuff for Canada. We sent all our stuff down there.
Yeah.
And all our technology and attached it to U.S. spaceships or sent it up on U.S. spaceships. The Canadian government's finally got sick of having to deal with budget cuts in the U.S. for NASA, and now they're just doing their own space program.
Well, once they started...
NASA's going downhill.
Once they started making the particle colliders in Europe that were much bigger than the ones even planned for the States, that's kind of where you saw the shift in scientific power, or the power of research, if you will.
Yeah, I've noticed the U.S. has kind of shifted away from like that kind of stuff, and they're more going towards stuff that makes them money.
I mean, they kind of need it, but yeah. That's the thing about technology, though.
Something.
If you have the technology, if you create the new technology, then you get to have the benefits of that technology. So, like, imagine way in the future, driving cars. Every motherfucker's going to have one of those, and we're just going to sit there without having to hold on to the wheel. It's going to be a huge thing. NVIDIA's at, like, the head of that. You got to get in that shit early. You got to make it yourself.
And that's
you got to be like the early
term,
adopter.
Though.
Well, yeah, but everything in science is thinking in the long term.
That's the problem with the States right now is a lot of the times they're thinking short term. We invent something now that we can profit off now, not 20 years from now.
Well...
Like, a lot of the stuff is medical stuff, like medicine. They look at the stuff what kind of medicine they're producing with their research. It's stuff that's instantly beneficial financially. Like, they didn't really come out with a cure for Ebola until it was personally affecting the people in the States, because there wasn't any profit to it before then. So
they're self-driven to protect themselves, and then they have interest in other countries where there's money to be made.
Exactly. So, like, that's the kind of thing. In Europe, though, they're thinking the long term. Eventually, they're looking for, obviously, still they need to think about in the short term, but they're building bigger stuff over there, especially with the colliders, because they see that there's a benefit to doing that kind of stuff and being ready for that in the future. Whereas I think the States used to think that way and has now moved away from that a little bit.
Medicine isn't a good example. If there's a need for a vaccine or a pill or something, they'll find a way to make it. The more pressing the need is, the more chances they'll make it faster. I mean,
I should give a better example than the Ebola.
Yeah, you need a better example.
There's the one guy that created a new version of an old medication, then patented it, and then increased the price of that medication by like 600%.
Oh, see, he didn't create a new one. He didn't create a new one. He just bought the old one.
No,
and then increased
bought
it by
the old one.
700%.
He bought the old one, and then started making it. Yeah.
So like that's the kind of stuff, and well, to do that, he also had to recreate it a little bit as well. You can't just.
Well,
he had to actually be able to produce.
drug
He also
itself,
got arrested and
took it-
tried for several fraud cases.
Yeah.
Well, if
So
you take
fuck
the
him.
medication as it is, it'll actually kill you. So, although you have HIV or AIDS, if you take the medicine, it has the chance of killing the HIV inside of you, but it's also going to be slowly killing you at the same time. So that's sort of the thing.
Another thing though, I don't know why the U.S. is actually cutting funds to NASA. A lot of their technology comes from both NASA and their military.
Yeah,
I
they're
don't know.
spending 5% on NASA, I think, on space, something like that.
Are they cutting funds?
Oh, they've been cutting funds since I think the second term of Obama, his second run through there. They've been cutting funds.
I didn't hear about it.
They were cutting back on space programs. The only thing that go through recently is they're starting to push for that whole Mars launch.
I do remember they. I think they stopped doing the shuttle launches.
Yep.
I think.
Oh god. Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm just watching a video.
I hope you know I segued us into self-driving cars twice and you didn't take the bait.
Well, I haven't done it because we're not there yet. So
Ugh.
So now getting still back to robots, I would like to point out that if you watch this video on this Russian Terminator, okay, the thing is, in my opinion, it walks all right. It shoots excellently. You basically, as long as you can run behind this thing enough times, you should be able to avoid getting shot. But if you go in front of this thing, you're gonna get hit because it's fairly accurate. Then you go over and you look at Boston Dynamics robots, and you're like, well, this thing's gonna be able to chase me down and hunt me down fairly easily. And I sent you guys a video if you were to go look over there. This thing is on wheels, and it's better stabilized than most people are on 2 flat feet.
I have seen that video, and I've had to say I'm quite impressed by its capabilities. It can jump, it can go over ramps without being, flinch.
And I believe this thing's called Handle, and it can pick up. It can pick up crates full of stuff, move them, run. It can lift 1 foot. It can go over objects, including ramps with just 1 foot or both. It can jump on top of tables. It can lower itself. It can keep its hands in the same position without moving them while going up and down, front and back. So that's actually a unique test there. So this thing has a decent amount of dexterity. It's fairly agile, and I'm like, I watched Boston Dynamics robot videos, not just this one in particular, but their Big Dog project and stuff like that.
I was gonna bring up Big Dog.
Yeah,
I love that thing. I love when he just kicks it.
He just kicks it and it's still doing good. Now, if Boston Dynamic were to announce tomorrow, hey, we've attached an artificial intelligence to one of our robots and we're teaching it how to shoot, then I'd be extremely worried. Because then we have a robot that can shoot and move really well.
We've taught this one how to stealth kill with a knife.
Yeah.
This one makes absolutely no sound when it moves around. It can go up walls.
And their Big Dog has tracking capabilities, but they can get it to track and follow you. What I like is there's actually a fictional movie that references Big Dog, and I like how they actually found a use for that Big Dog that's not military use, and you know what they were using it for? They were using it like a robotic donkey on a farm.
I was gonna say a footstool, but that's probably as bad.
They basically put a flat deck on top of it, and they were strapping things down to it, and it was be able to go over rough terrain with its stuff. So I thought that was actually kind of funny.
It's practical use.
It's a practical use.
I just thought it was funny because I know that's not what Boston Dynamic is thinking of doing with their robot. That it's not like they built their robot. Yeah, we're gonna turn this thing into a robotic donkey for farms. Like, yeah, it could have that use in the future, but I don't think that's what they were thinking when they were making it. But some filmmaker was like, yeah, that makes sense right there. We can turn this thing into a robotic donkey for our film.
I suppose when they become commercial, they'll be doing a lot of manual labor, I suppose, would they not?
Oh, God. Could you imagine how much Boston Dynamic would charge?
Oh, man.
Guys, look at your new farm equipment. $500,000. $1 million for this thing.
Seriously, they need to create the bender unit.
Yes, they do. But robot technology is just getting out there, and so is like there was a big announcement that for something that I thought was I'm not the usual one to bring this up. We usually have Scufflewick bringing this up.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
But there was some huge big update a while ago about animatronic sex dolls getting way more advanced. Like, I was like, yeah, this is big news. And this is just when I clicked on, like, I go on Google every morning and I click news. And that's all I do. I just want to see what the top news stories are. And that was one of the top news stories. And I didn't read it, but I was like, other than the first little couple words into the article. But then I'm like, really? This is big news? This is top news this morning? Is new advancements in sex dolls?
Well, They're
going to make millions. All they gotta do is put some giant eyes on them and some ridiculous hair, and they can sell it to the Japanese market.
Exactly.
Real life Japanese own a whole doll.
Well, speaking of Japan, you know what I found out today? You know Mark Hamill?
Yeah.
He went to school in Japan.
Cool.
Yeah, it was on a U.S. military base, but it was still in Japan. So
I mean, I
thought that was
That's a really common thing for anyone between like the 40s and the mid 60s because they had so many installment bases there.
Oh yeah,
I
feel like they're lucky.
One of my friends on TeamSpeak actually is in Japan for 4 years. He's been there for a year and he loves it.
He loves the culture.
He loves the food. He loves the military base. It's awesome.
Do you know where he is exactly, or?
I'm pretty sure he's on the eastern side. He's on like the biggest island though.
Nice.
You don't know exactly. You're just like he's like over on the east side of the country.
I don't know. He took a trip to the furthest north island, and that's actually where they have a lot
Hokkaido.
of the Sapporo.
Yeah, that's in Hokkaido. Yeah, that's where they make Sapporo.
A lot of people up there most of them actually don't speak a lot of English, other than the younger people.
Yeah, it's because now in grade school and stuff, it's mandatory for them to take English classes.
Whereas before it wasn't.
Yeah, it's a fairly new thing. So kind of like 30 and younger will be able to speak at least some English.
Which, I think is good. I think it's kind of, it's a little bit weird for us. We speak English, but and we're not expected to learn another language. But considering English is becoming more and more the most international language out there, I feel like other countries should be learning it. And it's only fair to say that if English starts to become not the main language of the world, say like Chinese suddenly becomes the most popular language across the whole entire world, then I would probably start learning Chinese myself. And I would expect my kids to as well. So, but the same thing right now, English is the most predominant language in the world.
Yeah.
It's probably good for other countries to teach their kids English as well.
If you want to talk about some weird language shit, I took 3 classes of Japanese in university. And that's a language you can use in literally only one place. And it was one of the most popular language classes.
Well, you want to hear something crazy? I took 2 classes of French. I live in Canada, and I don't use it.
Well, actually, a lot of the people on the cafe speak Japanese, so it's sort of, I guess it's not too bad if you take Japanese.
Yeah.
And for when you watch anime, you don't have to wait for the subtitles.
And honestly, I find their language very, I don't know, just the way they speak it's beautiful. It's very nice. It's pleasant to the ears.
See, the biggest reason for that is because it's almost completely made up of open syllables. So everything ends in a vowel. So
which is nice.
Yeah. And so things like rhythm become a lot easier when they're all one syllable. Yeah.
Which surprised me why English has become a predominant language in the world, considering our language is totally fucked and not easy to learn.
Yeah, like Japanese is like whenever anybody tries to like talk about Japanese, it's so well like drawn out and thought about.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, like I found I tried learning a little bit of Japanese back in high school, and I found it was easy to pronounce. I found the written language a little bit hard to understand, but the actual like verbal stuff wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
Whereas when somebody tries to tell me how what their experiences learning English sounds like a pain in the ass to learn. And now that I think about it, the only reason we haven't thought about it is because we live here, but we have like very like weird rules about our languages and like made up rules that we follow and like slang words that are like actually main parts of our language.
And
well,
just
see,
exceptions everywhere.
Every language has difficulties and their structures and whatnot and slang and all that. The only reason that English is so ridiculously hard is because when you find exceptions in language, there's just way fucking more of them in English.
Well, and that plus we have a tendency to borrow and butcher more other languages and add them to our own. So most languages don't do that as much as we do it.
Not necessarily, because if you think the vast majority of languages in all of Europe have some ties back to Romans and the Greek language and stuff. Like
that might actually also, when you're talking about Roman and stuff like that, what it reminds me of is Latin. That might be the reason why, now that I'm thinking about why English is doing so well as a language, because it does change so much. Because one of the reasons why Latin disappeared is because it became a stagnant and static language, and it didn't change and it kind of died. Slang words, weirdly enough, actually keep languages alive. So that might be the reason why we're still speaking English today.
Latin is used more in science than it is in common language.
So getting back to the robots.
No topic.
You want to talk about creepy stuff? You should see what's going on with drones. And I mean self-flying drones or ones that require like minimal assistance from somebody controlling them. The one that creeps me out is they actually have like, and you can see that Intel's doing stuff with this, but this was actually created before Intel started doing it, is groupings, like flocks of shoaling drones in a pattern. And Intel's doing like light shows with it, which is cool, but like that's just pre-programmed flight paths. What creeped me out is this one guy has a group of drones. What he can do is he can actually just direct them, and they will fly around and through things in groups in a pattern. So like if he has it going in a square pattern and he tries to run it into a pole, the center ones will actually go around and they'll reform into a square on the other side.
Nice.
All on their own.
I gotta say about the Intel drones, if you remember during the Super Bowl, it was like constant nonstop ads from Intel because they were using all of their drones for the cameras. And I really can't remember the number, but they had something like 50 or 150 drones or some shit. Like just tons of them.
Yeah, they've been pulling so much, and I forget how much their show is using. Their show is using, I think, at least 100. Their light show. They do this cool light show with drones.
Yeah.
And it was actually kind of neat to watch. It was during.
You have a video?
It was for. I think there is a video of it. I'm trying to see if I can find it. The Amazon Mars attendant new fireworks. Yeah, they were using it instead of fireworks. Instead of fireworks, they were actually doing using drones.
Where?
500 drone
they've been
light
using
show.
them at a few different things. One of them was actually for Amazon. I'm actually going to send you guys the link here.
That actually makes sense because Amazon uses drones for delivering stuff and for at their warehouse to get boxes off shelves.
Oh, the drones have been having issues, and they tried to do a public test to show where they're at, and the drone got stuck in the roof of the launching UPS truck or Amazon truck that it was coming out of. Yeah, here guys, here's our test to show you what we can do. Oh God, it's stuck.
That's embarrassing.
Oh, so like I follow drone news mostly because, well, I'm in archaeology, and the thing that I actually am really into is landscape archaeology, which a big thing in that is aerial photography with drones, which 3D scanning and portable lidar is becoming a really big thing. So
nifty.
You should try to get a job doing that, flying drones around taking photos.
Well, I've actually thought about that. There's a couple places that do that and hire. So.
What else did you want to talk about?
Oh yes, and now that we're talking about autonomous vehicle, like autonomous robots, flying autonomous drones, we should probably talk about deadly robots on top of that we were talking about. We should probably talk about self-driving cars. And I don't know if you guys were paying attention to the news recently, but Apple has now thrown their scarf into that ring for self-driving cars. So not only do we have Google self-driving cars, and we have Tesla and Ford and GMC, now our music company and our phone company is now going to try to make cars, and a self-driving car at that.
You shouldn't be that surprised. Well, it might be because I follow business news a little more closely, but they've been talking about getting into cars and car accessory and car systems for quite a while. That's why you can actually get cars right now where like the touch display is all iOS based, and like your iTunes and stuff is just directly on there. That's just kind of like the first step.
See, I'm fine with an electronics company like Apple getting into the auto industry for their electronics. So like their audio equipment, their control systems for like the computer systems and the center console and all that. What I have an issue with is with an electronic company like Apple, that deals mostly with electronics, now getting into the mechanical half and now building a car. Now, I'm sure the wiring for that car is going to be spot right the fuck on. What I'm worried about is the mechanical half and the body of the vehicle being shit.
It's going to look awesome. Be that worried.
Oh,
that's what R&D is for. Because if you look at auto manufacturers, like they're in a billion different businesses. Like if you look at something like Samsung, because everyone just knows them for like home consumer electronics and cell phones, they build giant tankers, the things that take all of those like sea boxes across the sea, like 5,000 of them on one ship. Samsung makes those.
I know.
It's not that weird for an electronics producer to make other things.
Well, I should probably point out that I was more impressed with Mitsubishi's electronics than I am with their cars. So I'm already kind of biased on electronic companies getting into cars.
They'll just hire an engineer that knows how to build cars, and they'll make them a super duper car.
I'm probably more likely to when self-driving cars become a thing, I'm more likely to buy a self-driving Ford than I am to buy a self-driving Google or Apple car. So
I don't know. Tesla. Would you get one of those?
If I could afford it.
The new model is only supposed to be about $30,000 before rebates, so it's not any more expensive than any other car, really.
Good point. But what I'm looking for with the self-driving cars, though, just so you guys know, is they're planning on having self-driving cars become the standard by 2020.
Damn.
And it's not just companies like Tesla saying that. That's Ford and GMC agreeing.
I mean, that'd be cool, but I don't think it'll happen. Just because of like the upgrade
3
cycle.
years.
What kind of made me skeptical up until recently is they were like there's going to be an interim. Like not everybody's going to want to buy brand new cars and nor are they going to trust the whole self-driving thing as well. Some people. But there's talks about more legislation coming into it, which is nice. And there is talk about making, and I think they're actually producing them now, testing them right now, but aftermarket kits to turn regular vehicles into self-driving cars.
Now here's a question: if a regular person in a regular car crash into an automatic driving car,
that it has happened on, I believe, less than 20 occasions in over, I think something like over 2 million miles on the Google self-driving car.
I'm probably guessing that most times that the human's going to be in the wrong.
The human is wrong. Only one out of those, all the accidents the Google self-driving car has been in were caused by the Google self-driving car. The other times were all caused by other vehicles running into the Google car.
Yeah.
And I'll point out, in some of those instances, the Google car did try to avoid the accident. And in all those instances, the Google car was actually able to mitigate most of the danger and actually gain control back afterwards. So if you're asking about what would happen if a person drives into a self-driving car, the accident's going to be less damaging than if there was 2 people driving that car, not 1 person and 1 robot.
Yeah, because that robot's going to be able to calculate how to minimize the damage 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah, and the person isn't.
Exactly. Yeah. They're just gonna run right into them.
I'm sure
all the accidents involving self-driving cars have been minimum accidents, like just what we'd call slight fender benders as well.
I'm sure there's going to be like 1 billion lawsuits of people suing self-driving cars though in their companies just because they don't get it.
Oh yeah, but they'll have so many cameras that they'll be able to prove deniability, I bet.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
It's
to
not
have
even
a self-driving car. There's like
it's not even necessarily cameras.
It's
It's more sensors. But like if you get a black box out of a normal vehicle and a black box out of a self-driving car, you can actually go through all the calculations the car had made up to that crash to determine if it was in fault or not. Whereas a black box on like a semi-truck that someone was driving, that you can really only see like maybe when they started braking or something.
Which is, like that's the issue with things. And like I'm looking forward to self-driving vehicles myself in cities. I am fine if somebody's out in the fucking countryside and wants to have a cruise in their classic car and drive, but inside major cities, it's going to save lives and it's going to reduce traffic times. So,
yeah,
I'm looking forward to it.
That's
because one of the biggest things that slows people down is that the slinky effect. When you're at a red light, the first person delays and the next person. That's not going to happen with self-driving cars.
I was going to say
it's ridiculous.
That's what you experience when like everything is slowed down and you're in gridlock, but you don't see an accident everywhere. It's just because the person in front of you overcorrected their braking, which made you overcorrect, which made the person behind you overcorrect, which made them overcorrect, and it just keeps going back and back and back until you reach the point where someone overcorrects and they stop. Even if those overcorrections are only by like 0.1 of a second at a time, eventually it reaches a point where they stop.
Well, and that's what traffic jams are. They're mostly just small things like that. Human slight error. Kind of causing a cascading effect. And self-driving cars, they've already tested it. They're pretty sure once self-driving cars become a standard, there will be a reduce in people being in traffic. There probably will not be traffic jams. So...
yeah, we'll have to drive with our eyes closed.
Get to work.
So, be less accidents. I won't have to worry about what happened to me this summer of a guy running over the front bumper of my vehicle while I'm driving it.
You can sleep on the way to work.
No, you won't legally. I've looked at some of the laws. You still have to be awake while driving it.
Well, I mean, at the current level of technology, yeah. Like even in the new Teslas,
they're talking about permanently. they're saying that there still has to be a person there just in case there is an issue. Even in the future, they're like, we don't want impaired drivers driving a self-driving car. They should know there has to be a person behind the wheel regardless.
There'll be a day.
And they have to be sober.
There'll be a day.
And it's mostly because what happens if something like electronics do fail, no matter how advanced they are. Say this is 30 years from now where, self-driving cars have been the standard for 20 years. And all of a sudden, you have an electronic short, a fuse went. And the self-driving car is like, fuck, I can't drive anymore. You need to pull this shit over. And you're asleep or like high or drunk out of your mind. Well, suddenly you have somebody who can't drive with a car that can't drive.
I'd hope by the time we reach that point, if a fuse blows, it has a way to fucking fail safe, because a fuse is fail safe.
Well, yeah, but you get my point. That just is something. If something were to majorly happen, they still want somebody sober behind the wheel just in case.
See, what I don't like is that they're going, like you said, they're trying to make it permanent, because we can't say what's going to happen in the future with the advances. Like, if we now say that we cannot have a self-driving vehicle where the person can sleep inside it, that makes sense now. But 50 years from now, we can't say if, they'll fail and you need to be awake and stuff like that. We can't say that. And if we future-proof it now, it's just going to create a hassle down the road if we reach a point where we can have self-driving vehicles where we can sleep in them and stuff like that.
Well, yeah.
Because then you're going to have to jump through legal loopholes.
I get why they're scared of it a little bit, because, where the technology is now, and it's just like, well, should there be a person drunk behind the wheel regardless of how well this thing works? And I get their worry about that. Though I think you'll be happy to hear, I'm pretty sure companies like Ford are against legislation, because Ford is trying to create stuff where there is no driver behind their self-driving cars.
Well, I mean, we need some legislation, but we can't cut off.
But they're against
the
legislation that's saying that there has to be somebody sober behind the wheel. Because Ford wants to have self-driving cars with no people behind there. And if they put in legislation where there has to be a sober person behind the wheel of a self-driving car, well, then that throws a huge hole into Ford's plan.
Make it like Men in Black 2. Literally no one driving, and if you need to take manual override, it's a PS2 controller.
Oh, you're not thinking of Men in Black 2, you're thinking of iRobot. Will Smith movie, but same thing.
I could have swore it was Men in Black.
Because there's a scene just like that in iRobot, and it's Will Smith as well.
Vladdy, jump in. Do you know which one I'm thinking of?
I'm pretty sure it's Men in Black that they have the self-driving car. Is it not?
Let me just see. I'm
searching it up.
But I think the possibility of having it in multiple movies is also there again too.
It'd just be funny if it was two Will Smith movies.
Yeah, of course. The Will Smith on the tech.
Oh, here's the scene.
Is that an iRobot or?
I found a scene, and it's an iRobot. There's a scene of it with an iRobot.
Weird.
I don't know if there's a scene in one of the Men in Black movies as well, but I remember the scene from iRobot. He goes against the rules of the normal thing, and for one, if you remember the movie, Will Smith's character also drove a combustible engine motorcycle, which I guess at that time in that world was unusual because none of the cars were. But during one of the scenes, why is it not? Give me a sec. I had tried sending the iRobot thing. Instead, it decided to send the wrong link. I think, I forgot to highlight it, and I just clicked copy over okay, that's why. But what ended up happening is he's driving the car, and he clicks manual override, and he pops out a standardized warning saying, "Yeah, can you'll be liable and all that shit kind of crap if you take over driving yourself." He's he's looking at photos and videos while he's driving.
Okay, hold on, because I found the scene in Men in Black 2 that I was literally talking about.
And then I found the scene I'm literally talking about in iRobot. So
both
right. It is two iRobot, two Will Smith movies have the exact same scene in them.
Of course.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they had the scene where the guy pops out and drives.
Yeah, and he goes to manual override, and it's a PS2 controller. That was the point, PS2 controller.
Oh. If you watch the iRobot one, he just gets he gets a warning.
Yeah, I was talking about the PS2 controller.
I thought you were also mentioning the whole like manual override thing in it.
No. I just want to be able to control a real life car with a PS2 controller.
Oh god, that would actually be kind of funny.
Yeah.
But
imagine trying to see our parents learn how to use that.
What I like about the iRobot car, if you watch, is that it has no steering wheel. Until he puts it in the manual, and the steering wheel then comes out of the console and folds up in front of him. That was a little bit interesting. But it brings up another point, that's something that has been put into movies and TV shows. So we have the new Fate of the Furious? Fast and the Furious 8?
Fate of the Furious.
And then an episode of, though this one's really unrealistic, an episode of Criminal Minds that talks about this, is self-driving cars being hacked and used as weapons.
Yep, I've seen a lot of that.
Now, I'll point out just to begin before we talk, if anybody's wondering why I'm saying the Criminal Minds is unrealistic, if you've watched the episode, the vehicles that are being hacked through a cassette player in a non-self-driving car. Like, I'm going to point out, the worry is not that they can hack any fucking car and drive it. It has to already be a self-driving car. Can't just hack any fucking car and have it be turned into a weapon.
Yeah, the whole point of being able to hack those self-driving cars is because they have a big fancy computer in them.
I'm going to point out, even if you could remotely hack into a non-self-driving car's computer system, the most you're going to be able to do is fuck with their audio system and maybe fuck with their injector system and some of the electronic controls.
I feel like I remember hearing a news story about someone hacking a vehicle and they just shut off the engine.
Yes, it has happened. Tesla's had issues. Oh yeah, you could do that. There are some cars that new cars you can remotely hack in, but the most things you're not going to be able to drive. The most you'd be able to do is shut the vehicle down or fuck with their engine. Maybe even make it explode. The engine, blow.
Interesting.
You wouldn't be able to cause a big explosion. It's just you'd fuck their engine and they'd have to go buy a new
videos
engine.
on YouTube for that.
No, and if you start searching things up,
right.
Vlad, if you're gonna be starting to search things up like that on the internet, most likely you are gonna be put on some watch list.
Oh yeah, the FBI, CIA, Secret Service.
You can literally look up how to make meth on YouTube. I'm just saying.
I'll point out, I actually talked to a guy that who was actually worked for the bomb squad. He's was a military engineer for the US and the Canadian government. Who worked on making bombs and explosives and disarming them. He told me this little key fact: the stuff like that you find online is especially with explosives, is usually purposely put on the internet by governments. But it's usually missing key components that actually make it dangerous for the person making the substance at home. In the case of explosives, you usually have to put a stabilizer in for explosives, or it'll go off while you're essentially mixing it. And if you don't tell somebody to put that stabilizing agent in the explosive, they blow themselves up while they're trying to make their bomb.
I mean, that's probably even worse. What happens if it's like a 15-year-old kid and they're like, hey, we're going to make a bomb for shits and giggles out in this field, and then they blow themselves up?
It has happened.
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
Kids have blown their hands off doing that.
I mean,
have you guys ever remember the thing when you were growing up, the Anarchist Handbook?
No.
I don't think I know.
That was an actual thing, and I found out later that was actually put out by a government agency. It was thought to be put out by a group of individuals just like wanting to put random shit out online, and it was put out by a government. Most of the files that were in that Anarchist Handbook were actually put out by the US and the Canadian and the European government to throw shit like that out there. And it was a whole thing like how to make bombs, how to make dirty car bombs and meth and cocaine all at home, but they took out things that would make them safe in hopes that the person doing it wouldn't be able to actually make it or even hurt themselves while making it. So
that's really shitty.
And they did that with drugs as well.
It's like, I bought the Necronomicon, but I don't necessarily want to, like, summon black witches and shit.
The Anarchist Handbook was an online book online. It was like torrented. It was like, peddled in the back wares of the deepest,
so
darkest sections
like,
of
the
the
deep
internet.
web.
Yeah. Well, or at least the early 2000s version of the deep web.
Okay, that's a little different than a YouTube video.
But this is before YouTube. This is what people like that did. Now you can search this stuff up on YouTube, but it's the same thing. A lot of times there's something missing from it. So be careful when you're online. If you ever watch a lot of those videos, some of those guys actually don't explain fully what they're doing while they're putting shit together. Because they also don't want to get in trouble for showing you fully how to make something that's dangerous. So they'll skip over a couple of steps, but do the steps in front of you, and you don't realize they've done a couple of steps without explaining it. So you have to be careful when it comes to stuff like that. Or the person online doesn't actually fully understand what they're doing. And that's even a whole new thing of what that's dangerous. So to get back to, I've watched a couple of videos like that, by the way. Like, I used to like making smoke bombs and when I was growing up. And there was quite a few tutorials where the person didn't quite know what they were talking about for the mixture. And one person actually ended up making an actual explosive, not smoke, a smoke grenade, because he added he misread I think a recipe for explosives, and he thought he was making a smoke bomb, but he added some stuff that would actually just was making fireworks, and an actual explosive fireworks, not the. He, I think, found a tutorial for making smoke-filled fireworks, and it didn't label itself like that, so it didn't cut off the instructions at the right point, and so it gave a little bit of instructions on how to make fireworks as well, and this guy was following it, so he could have actually blown his fingers off quite easily. Actually, if I remember right, he actually did cause a small explosion when he tried testing his smoke grenade. So be careful with that. Don't blow off fingers. Don't try to make meth. Don't try to hack somebody's car with if you're okay, I'm gonna point out, if you're trying to hack somebody's car with YouTube videos, you're probably gonna go to jail. Because those YouTube videos usually probably won't show you how to cover your tracks and not get caught. So be careful with that. But to get back to the topic, it's not just regular people and filmmakers worrying about this. The FBI has actually, down in the States, has actually put out warnings about this as well, that they're worried about people hacking, because actually a lot of current day self-driving cars are really susceptible to being hacked. And so the FBI themselves are actually worried that one day a terrorist group will actually hack a self-driving car and use it as a weapon. They're trying to change legislation to prevent that, what they're requiring companies to do to protect their cars from being self-driven. But yeah, they're still always going to be worrying. And I don't know if you've ever seen the cool scene from the Fate of 8 during the commercial, but they have like a whole bunch of cars being controlled and running into shit.
Yeah, they have they have a full parkade of vehicles, and they all just flood out and blow up, and it's all crazy. I didn't even see the movie. I just seen it in the preview.
Now I'm not even gonna get it behind the logistics of like hacking like more than 10 cars at the same time. I feel like that would be some like amazing feat, even for like the most pronounced and profound modern hacker. I think it would be very hard pressed to hack more than 10 cars at once, and then have them control those 10 cars and have them all drive in the same direction.
Yeah, all at the same time out of the same parking lot. Nah.
I don't think we have to worry about self-driving cars being used effectively as weapons. And like on top of that, even if you could hack a car, what's the most you're going to be able to do is have like a couple of cars run into something. At best, if it was used for a terrorist attack, it would probably be used as a distraction, not as the actual weapon itself. Now
what about this?
If they start doing,
what if it's filled with like something like drugs, and they're transporting drugs with no one in them?
Oh, yeah, that causes a whole bunch of things. They're gonna have a whole bunch of new legal problems once self-driving cars come into as a standard thing. But that's the same with any technology. We had to create whole new laws for all sorts of new technologies that have come out. Look, they're trying to police the internet now, but like when the internet came out, nobody was thinking about like the implications of what would happen once you made the internet a mainstream thing. But now there's a whole bunch of issues with the Silk Road, the darknet, the deep web, human trafficking over the internet, drug trafficking over the internet, child pornography. When they created the internet, nobody was thinking about all the dirty shit it could be used for. And that's probably nobody's thinking about the dirty shit other than using it as a weapon, I guess, that self-driving cars are in. Because, yeah, I bet you anything you're going to have drug cars being shipped back and forth between the Mexican and the U.S. border. That's a whole new other issue. So there's no going to be anybody in the car to question to see if there are drugs in there.
I think that's the whole reason too, that they need someone.
Now, what do you think,
driving
Jukebox? Still there?
I just leaned back and had like a little nap.
Well, what do you think? There are other kind of issues that can arise from self-driving cars other than the possibility of them being used as a weapon.
I don't know. I'm hard pressed to think of issues, but like what you were talking about earlier with people hacking them and that kind of worry, it kind of lumps itself in with the Internet of Things. And so many people are paranoid about the Internet of Things, and that's like your refrigerator that has a touch tablet or whatever that connects to the internet, and your smart TV which connects to the internet, and your cell phone, and I don't know, your ebook that connects to the internet, and your light switch that connects to the internet so you can control it with an iOS app from Mexico while you're on vacation. Shit like that. That's the Internet of Things, and people are worried about, you know, people will hack that stuff and then they'll fuck everything up and they'll use it as weapons. They'll just... I think they're a little too worried. What happens if you hack into a TV? Do you put like a nudie image on that tablet screen? Do you make the ice cube dispenser throw out more ice cubes? These things...
You already know about this already, but what people are worried about with that is that they're spying on them for information. And I don't know if you noticed, but there's a new movie coming out called The Circle that pretty much embodies everybody's fear of being monitored by technology.
Well, yeah, but guys, they built that movie on that fear. Because, like, not everything is going to, like, destroy your life. Your fridge isn't going to destroy it. Not everything is built to have sensors in a way where people can actually view you or record you.
And I don't think people realize that they're already being monitored, and all their worries. If you had something to worry about, you'd already have something to worry about. The government, the police, or people would be already beating down your door if you were doing something that they actually cared about.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Realize that. Okay, look at some of our friends. They I'm going to say this, but they illegally torrent and stream movies over the internet. Yet they've been doing this for one of our friends has been doing it for more than a decade, but they've never got caught. I bet you the government or somebody out there is aware that he is torrenting films, but they don't care. They have bigger shit that they're looking for. When they utilize the internet and monitoring technologies, they're not going after the small fry. They're not going after the guy torrenting 1 or 2 movies a month. They're looking for the guy distributing the movies, or they're looking for the guy doing illegal drug trade in his house and shit like that. They're not looking for the guy who smokes pot or talks about pot in his house, or shit like that, or the weird shit that you're into. Nobody gives a flying two shits about that. And what people are worried about when their TVs are monitoring them, or they're monitoring their activity online and shit like that, is they're worried that they're going to get in trouble. Well, no offense to anybody listening to this. If you're worried about that, realize the people you think are going to come after you don't give a shit about you.
I honestly think
they're not
the people that are going to come after you the most are like big companies that want to know what you're interested in and how they can sell to the people.
Well, and they already do that.
Oh yeah, they do it all the time.
Have you ever known
YouTube does that. Google does that.
I have an interesting little tidbit about that torrent stuff, because you can guarantee they're on lists because, what was it? I think it's 65% of all high quality day one torrents for music were actually put out by the record companies so they could get a list of everyone downloading it. So
And
the best quality torrent you can possibly find was probably from the record company.
And they don't, even them themselves, they don't even care that much. They just want to have an idea if their stuff is still popular and how much of it is being torrented. They're not going to come after you legally, probably, if you're the guy downloading. The guy who's distributing, downloading, and then giving it to other people, they care about. But the person just downloading from the source that they put out, they're not looking for you. They just want to know how many people are illegally torrenting their music or their movies and shit like that, so they have analytics to go off of for that.
And then they can target those places, like artists can come to certain towns that they're popular in that they would otherwise have no idea. Like Jeezy coming to
They'll
Edmonton.
find a way to use that. They'll find that way to use that information regardless of whether you're buying their product. So
exactly,
you mentioned music, and like Vlad has mentioned, so they know, say here in Alberta, they know, oh god, a majority of all the new AC/DC album that came out is being torrented to Alberta. We're obviously not going to make money off selling the records there, the music there, but I bet you we can sell the concert and the other merchandise to the people in Alberta.
Exactly.
The stuff you can't just illegally purchase and go to. So the companies are looking for that. The only thing that creeps me about technology monitoring me is people who are out to harm me. So we're talking about stalkers and people who aren't intended. Like if the government's monitoring me, if the government's listening to this right now and recording us somehow without us knowing, I give a flying two shits. If some advertising company is listening to what I'm saying while I'm watching Pokemon, I don't care. What creeps me out is that this has the potential for somebody to misuse the monitoring technology, and that's where I think people should be worried about, not about the government or major companies using it or the police or somebody, but worrying about the average Joe who's a stalker or some creepy hacker doing it to harm somebody.
I wouldn't call those people Joes.
On purpose. Because I can see stalkers using this technology. This is what I get like at midnight.
Yes.
With very little sleep.
So we should probably get to whatever other topics you have and wrap this up, because we're like a good hour and 20 minutes in.
I was going to ask, how do you guys, and I was actually going to bring up the circle, so I'm glad you brought it up, that the people worrying about monitoring, but how do you guys feel about movies, the topics talked about in the movie The Circle, or people worrying about being monitored? How do you feel about being monitored by future technology?
I already assume everything I do is being monitored, so I don't care. I do have something to say about the movies, though, because I don't like the way they paint that light. They give people more fear, or they give them something to feed off of. I don't like the spread of unneeded or untrue fear.
And I'll agree with that, actually, because have you watched the trailer for The Circle?
No. But I bet you it's probably been on news shows where 50-year-olds, 60-year-old news anchors are like, oh, this is so fucking horrifying.
And they paint stuff that major companies are doing already in a bad light. Like they're using it for some nefarious purpose. Yeah. Major companies are monitoring your stuff and selling your information to people. But they're not doing it to like harm you. The government's just wanting statistics on their citizens because nobody does the fucking census anymore. And major companies are just looking to figure out what you want to buy.
Okay, you can't say that because more people do the census than ever.
Well, yeah, but it gives them more accurate stuff, and they don't have to ask you.
It's all data. Data is very useful.
I honestly think that everything we do is being monitored in some way. I mean, maybe not all the time, 24/7, but I mean, you carry a phone around, so yeah.
They're just painting something that's actually not dangerous in a bad light.
And with the analytics, I think it's honestly useful because we can understand dynamics in our populations that otherwise we would have had no idea that are even there. And I mean, when we have those kind of analytics, we can understand and progress in multiple different ways.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, it's a good thing, but like people are in the media, like this movie, are painting something that's really not bad in a huge, horrible light, and trying to make it sound like they're using it for some nefarious purpose when they're really not. Like, people have to realize the companies were doing this long before they could monitor your technology. They were paying attention. What do you think the customer surveys were for?
Exactly.
And they were paying attention to what customers were buying in their stores. You kidding me? If you were to go into your local store, like, well, let's say Kmart back in the 80s, if they're noticing some backwater town like, say, like Millet was buying, they would not have a Kmart in Millet, just pointing this out. But let's say they had one there, and they noticed everybody in Millet was buying 20-inch TVs. Well, you don't think they're going to pay attention? Shit, these guys are really into 20-inch TVs. I don't know why, but we should probably figure out how to use that information. Maybe ship more 20-inch TVs over there and stuff that go with 20-inch TVs, like accessories and shit, and sell it to them. They were doing that back in the 80s, but now all this new technology just allows them to do that a little easier, is all. So
yeah,
people, you've been monitored since like the freaking governments have been monitoring their citizens like that since like the 1700s. Stop worrying about them doing it now. It's just it's been an issue that you haven't really cared about until you just realize, oh, they can listen to me through my TV.
Yeah.
And if you're thinking about this, this is actually an issue in the last generation of consoles. Remember, there was a big issue in a conspiracy theory revolving around the Xbox One before it came out.
Oh yeah, of course.
The Kinect.
I mean, yeah.
People were worried about the Xbox One monitoring you, and you weren't going to be able to shut off the Kinect, and it was going to be able to videotape you.
Oh yeah,
record your audio
because it became so accurate that it could like recognize your face at like any time, and it was always like in a low power mode where it could still listen because it could recognize your voice and then turn itself on and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so people were worried.
Reading a review of that, people were worried that like the government was going to be able to see them jerking off in their living room. I'm like,
dude,
who do you think you are? Do you think some
like,
government official
really,
wants to sit there and watch you jerk off?
Yeah, honestly, all these things, nobody really cares enough to actually just sit there and watch you. But like, thing like you said with the stalkers, I think that's the main thing to worry about is people who want to get into your life and, I don't know, like, take advantage of you, steal from you, steal your identity, that sort of thing. And I think if somebody can hack into your computer, they can steal your identity and they can watch everything you do. I mean, if you're worried about
that already does happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And
does happen.
Well, have you guys ever read it? This actually happened to somebody. Their baby monitor was hacked.
Creepy.
And some guy was watching and talking to their child.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. That was fucking weird.
See, that's the people I'm worried about. It's not the majority of what the thing's used for. It's the potential for it to be misused by people. And you know what? That's with any technology. There's always gonna be one asshole to ruin the bunch. You know what I mean?
That's what the main concern really is. Like, there's always going to be stories about these like dildo conspiracy theorists and stuff like, oh, the government, blah blah blah. But the main concerns that like real journalists worry about is stalkers, pedophiles, stuff like that.
But that's not what they're not what most journalists are reporting about. They're reporting about your government being able to spy on you.
Are they actually journalists?
No, man.
Well, no, we're talking like the Daily Mail
fucking
and
forum
the
columnists.
New York
Are you kidding me?
Posts. Well, no, some legitimate news sites are actually reporting like that instead of worrying about people hacking into and watching your child.
A lot of the news is owned by the government, and the people and the news anchors or news websites that aren't owned by the government, they don't really want to poke at the government because those bigger news outlets will find something on those news articles that are smaller than them. And
realize there's a big issue with. I'll also point out there's a big issue with. We're not going to get political here. I'm just going to mention this one off, and we won't talk about it. But there are big issues, with well, we're trying to stay non. Like, I haven't really given my full opinion on all this, and I don't want to really give off what my political ideals are with this. I want to keep kind of neutral as best as possible here, but. We know for a fact that nowadays there's a big issue revolving fake news and misreporting shit or being more biased than they've ever been, whether it's
Yeah.
right wing or left wing. If you want to get on the political thing, it's just a big issue nowadays.
Yeah.
And I don't know, news is kind of a messed up issue right now as it is. So them reporting on things inaccurately doesn't surprise me. It's just the fact that I personally haven't seen big news organizations talk about what I would consider a legitimate concern revolving around monitoring technology. So,
guys,
they're more worried. They're always talking about the government. But on a note, we should
Geysers.
probably record our intro. So,
I'm tired.
Jukebox here has something to record, and we can go to sleep. Yeah, this is Distinct Kusai.
I'm tired.
Tired.
Also, Jukebox.
And our guest,
Vladdy.
Yay.
And there you go.
Yay.
And there you go.
Yes. Good night.
Remember, if you liked what you heard today, please remember to subscribe and like the video. And if you would like to hear anything particular, don't forget to comment down below. Thank you and have a nice day.